Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on artificial intelligence. You hear about it everywhere, but a lot of it can feel like some kind of tech magic. Well, it's not. It's a process, and we're about to break down exactly how it all works, step by step. So here's the big question, right? How does AI actually work? I mean, how does a bunch of code suddenly learn to create a picture out of thin air or answer some super complex question? It sounds impossible, but I promise you, the basic idea behind it is something you can totally get your head around in just the next few minutes. So let's do it.
Okay, let's dive right in. If you want to build an AI from scratch, you really just need two things to start. You need your raw materials and you need a set of instructions. Think of it like this. You need fuel and you need a recipe.
And it all kicks off with that first ingredient: data. You can think of data as the fuel for the entire AI engine. And I'm not talking about a little bit of fuel. We're talking about absolutely massive, almost unimaginable amounts of it. Without that fuel, even the most sophisticated AI is basically just a fancy paperweight. So what is this data? Well, it's pretty much any information you can think of. It's text from millions of books and websites. It's countless images, videos, sounds, you name it. Here's a perfect example. You can't just tell an AI what a cat is. It doesn't work that way. You have to show it by feeding it a library of thousands, maybe even millions of pictures of cats. That collection of photos literally becomes its entire understanding of what a cat is.
But okay, having a mountain of fuel is one thing. It's totally useless if you don't have an engine that knows what to do with it, right? On its own, all that data is just, well, it's just noise. The AI needs a guide, some instructions to make any sense of it at all. And that is where algorithms come in. An algorithm is basically just the recipe. It's the set of rules that tells the AI how to process all that data. So while it's looking at all those cat pictures, the algorithm is the little voice saying, hey, look for patterns. Notice things that keep showing up, like pointy ears or whiskers or a certain kind of nose. It's the logic that helps turn all that raw data into actual knowledge. So we've got our fuel, that's the data, and we've got our recipe, that's the algorithm. Now comes the fun part. It's time for the AI to actually start learning. And you know what? Just like us, it learns by doing, over and over and over again. This is what's called the training phase. And you can think of it as a giant learning loop. The AI takes in the data, it uses its algorithm to make a guess, and then, and this is the most important part, it gets told if it was right or wrong. It just repeats that cycle millions, sometimes billions of times, getting just a tiny bit smarter, a tiny bit more accurate with every single attempt. And what's so wild is that this process, it's actually really similar to how we humans learn. Seriously, think about learning to ride a bike. You get on, you try, you wobble, you fall down. That fall, that's feedback. You adjust what you're doing, and you try again. AI training is the exact same idea. It's just happening at an incredible speed. It makes a guess on an image, gets it wrong, a system corrects it, and it tweaks its own internal logic. Try, fail, correct, repeat. Okay, so this whole learning loop idea makes sense, but it kind of begs the question, right? Where is all this practice actually taking place? What's the digital brain, so to speak, that's doing all of this work? Well, for a lot of modern AIs, the answer is something called a neural network. And it's a system that's, you guessed it, inspired by the way our own brains are wired. Just imagine information passing through different layers. The first layer might only be able to see simple things, like lines and edges. The next layer then takes those lines and combines them into basic shapes, like an eye or an ear. And the layer after that puts those shapes together to finally recognize a face. It's this step-by-step layered approach that lets an AI build up a really complex understanding from very simple information. All right, so the AI has been fed mountains of data, it's followed its algorithm recipe, and it's practiced billions of times inside its neural network. It's officially trained. So now what? What does any of this actually look like out here in the real world? This is where we get to the payoff. I mean, the entire goal of that gigantic training process is to be able to produce something useful. It's about taking all the patterns it learned and using them to do something, like make a smart prediction, generate something totally new, or help you make a decision. And the truth is, you see these AI outputs all day, every day. When you ask your smart speaker a question, that's a trained AI at work. When your streaming service recommends a movie that you, actually end up loving, that's an AI. Language translation apps, customer service chatbots, the text suggestions on your phone, all of it is the result of this training process. Now, all of this sounds incredibly powerful, and believe me, it is.
But this brings us to probably the single most important thing to remember about all of this. AI isn't magic, and funnily enough, its biggest weaknesses are actually built right into the way it learns.
And here's the critical part. An AI doesn't think. It doesn't understand things the way you and I do. At its very core, it's just an extremely, extremely good pattern matching machine. That's it.
And what that means is that an AI is only ever as good as the data we feed it. It's like a mirror. It just reflects the information we give it. So if that data is wrong or biased or incomplete, then guess what? The AI's results will be just as flawed. It'll make mistakes, not because it's trying to, but because bad data is all it ever learned from. So let's just tie it all together one last time. When you boil it down, it's really just a four-part journey. You start with data, that's the fuel. You apply an algorithm, that's the recipe. Then comes the training, that's the practice. And finally, you get the output, the result. Fuel, recipe, practice, result. That right there is the heart of how AI learns.
And that really brings us to the final and maybe the most important question of all. If AI learns from our data, from our words, our pictures, our history, our biases, then it really is just holding up a mirror to us. So the biggest question isn't just about how this incredible technology works, it's about what we as people are choosing to teach it.